Okay, we are almost live. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, just whatever works, man. Just near my mouth if you can.
You know what? Let me go ahead and just. I'm gonna try to use this one instead.
Is it working?
No, it's
Nope.
not powered.
That's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Just put that one on. And live stream has sound. Yes, it does.
It's fine. It's not set up.
Very good. We are good to go.
So this is gonna be extremely awkward, but
That's fine, as long as it's picking up.
is that good enough?
Yeah, just turn this up.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. So, hopefully we are broadcasting. Oh no, supposed to be broadcasting the screen here for all the people online. It's coming. Come on. Where's the screen share? There we go. Come on, click. Does this not work? Okay. Why is the screen share not clicking?
Either or should have the second.
Anything else looks good?
It's not good.
That's it. Just close this window and start it again. And try it now. There we go. Full screen. Start. There we go. We're good. It does that. It just does that. Listen. Okay. So Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. So we have a lot to cover, and we've already covered a lot last week. So just to do a very, very quick review, hopefully all of you have been logged into Canvas, and you've been you've been downloading some of these notes here. So these are some of the notes in terms of how the letters are written. How many of you downloaded these notes? Okay, these are 5 pages here. So hopefully you looked at it, and it shows you very few basic things. So if you look at my screen here, the alif starts by being written from the top, going down. The ba starts from the top right, going down, coming back up, and then you draw the little dot over there. Although this should be a little bit higher because it's on the line, right? The ha, for example, you start here. You start here, move towards the right, move back, down, and to the right, and don't curve up. When you're coming back down, as you can see this on your chart. So this shows you how to draw the letters. So this requires some practice, okay? Ra, just these are some examples here. Ra, for example, is another one of them. Just go like that and stop. The Seen, you start from the top right. You go like this, and you make these letters. So this shows you where to basically start with your pen. If you look at the letter Sad, for example, a little bit more tricky. You start from here, you make this line going down, around, come up, bring this around, and you got Sad. Pretty easy. But now comes a Ta, and this is where many people make a mistake. So if you look at this page very carefully, this is from images from Gateway to Arabic. It's the Arabic alphabet letter formation cards, which is uploaded on Canvas. The way you start your ta, it says number 1, the first thing you do is you make this base for it. That's number 1. All right, and then it says number 2, you bring it back around, and then number 3, that's when you bring this line down. That's the correct way to make the ta. The incorrect way, which if you do, it's not a huge deal, is where you start from the top and you go like this. For a lot of people, this is a lot easier, right? Now, in terms of the way it looks, it almost looks the same, but expert writers say that you should write it the way according to this thing. The ayn starts from here, goes like that. What else do we have? Everything else is easy. The kaf, for example, you start by making this part of the kaf, then you make that little hamza inside in the middle, so that comes next. So this shows you 1, 2, 3, 4 step-by-step process of how to draw these letters, right? The ha is a tricky one. So some people, they'll draw their ha like this. I'll tell you how I used to draw my ha. I used to draw my ha, it's kind of funny actually. So I used to draw a little circle like this, right? And then I would draw this like little line coming through here. That's one way I used to do it. The second way I used to do it is I would make this thing, then I would make my line, and then I would put a little thing in here. So the reality is, what you do, if you look closely at the ha, what you're supposed to be doing is you start from the top here. I'm holding too long. You bring it down, go around in a circle, come back through, and there. Okay, that's the way the ha is. So it's basically you're doing a bunch of circles. If you want to remember this, perhaps I'll give you a very short story. So one guy, he had some itar, the cologne, perfume for men, like a rose one, very nice smelling. So he was from Turkey. So I said, you know how people in the masjid, they go and they put some cologne on your hand. I said, can I have some perfume on the hand? So they go and he says, would you like some? I said, yeah, sure. So he comes and he starts making these circles. I'm thinking, what the heck are you doing? And he says, do you see what I've just done? I said, no, I didn't know. He said, this is a Turkish tradition. I said, what did you just do? He said, I just drew the letter ha, right? By making these circles, exactly what you saw. Circle, and then circle, like this, coming through like this. So he made these circles. He made 2 circles. I said, well, why do you do that? He said, because the letter ha stands for the... Actually, no, sorry. He actually did this. He made 3 circles. So he did 1 circle, 2 circle, and then 3 circle for the waw. So this stands for huwa, and huwa means him, right? So he says, huwa in our culture represents huwa meaning Allah, him meaning Allah, the one, right? So every time we put perfume on somebody else's hand, we draw a little huwa with our 3 little curves, our 3 little circles, and that's our Turkish tradition in our culture. So now, hopefully, you'll never forget how to draw the ha correctly, or you're going to be putting perfume on other people's hands like this, okay? So we got our letters down. Writing is good, okay? We covered the Arabic alphabet. We covered how to connect letters, right? So I'll give you an example. Someone I saw made a mistake. So this person wrote the word lam, ya, lam like this. So this is the word layl, right? So what they did was they wrote the word layl. It's a fatha. This is a sukun, right? This is a circle. Layl. So now, does anyone see a problem with this? There's extra on the lam, or on the first lam or the second lam? It's on the ya actually, right? This is before the last lam, right? So what should it be? This little thing right here, this part should not be there, right? It does not need to be there. So instead, you're supposed to do this like that, right? So what happened? They put an extra line right there. Now, how do you know that this is a problem? What you do is you just start looking at your chart, which has all the this is called the Arabic alphabet connected forms. So you look at this chart and you say, okay, the lam is in its initial form. So I'm going to write them out one by one. So the lam initial form looks like this, right? Then the ya is in which form? Medial, beginning, end, or letter form? medial form. So what does the ya look like in medial form? It starts from here, goes up, comes back down, and then you draw the 2 dots. All right? And by the way, a short note, there's one little mistake on this little chart, and that is the letters with the dots, like noon and ta and ya. The dots kind of look like they're on top of this curve thing, right? And it looks like there's 2 dots here. Actually, these dots should be to the left of the line because they're inside the valley. You get the point? Inside the valley. So they're actually supposed to be inside the valley. So the noon, when it's connected, the dot should be a little bit over here, maybe too much. But here, let me remove this guy. Come on, go away. There we go. Oh, go away. He doesn't want to leave. It looks like. Undo. There we go. Okay. So like kind of around here. That's good. All right. It doesn't have to be here per se. Okay. It doesn't have to be on top. It shouldn't actually be on top like this. This is not the best way to write it. Although it's not a big deal if you do. Okay. So here you write the ya, and then the lam in its connected form, its final form, connects from the right. Looks like that. Right. So there you go. These are 3. You put these things together and you get this one. You do not get this one, right? So that's a good way of testing, checking your writing. Okay, how many of you actually did your homework? The entire chapter 0 homework, all of them. Excellent, alhamdulillah. It's a lot more than I expected, so I'm actually very happy. Alhamdulillah, may Allah bless you. All right, so good so far. All right, let's continue. Yeah. No. Tell him to click refresh on his browser and it'll take him to the page. Okay, so we saw that. Good to go. We saw the letters, how they're written out. We did exercise point 1, writing. Most of you did that. We saw the different forms of the letter, how to connect them. We saw short vowels. And it's important to memorize these short vowel, the names. So there's a fatha, the one that goes on top. There's a kasra, the one that goes on bottom, and the dhamma, it's a wow looking letter that goes on top. So we saw that, and we saw the sukoon. Now remember, in this class, when there's nothing on a letter and we're showing you the vowels, it means there's a sukoon when there's nothing on the letter. Okay? So we saw that. We did exercise 0.7, right? Hopefully everyone did that. Now we're going to long vowels. Did we stop here at long vowels? Did we cover long vowels? We did not cover long vowels. Okay, so this is where we stopped, right? We covered short vowels though, right? Does anyone remember? We did not cover short vowels. Okay. Okay, so now let's talk about short vowels real quick. So we're going to go fast. So if you go to your notes on short vowels, okay, this is where we are. So Arabic has consonants and it has vowels. So far we've been writing these consonants. Alif, ba, lam, ta, sheen. These are all consonants. Now what we do is we put vowels on top of, or we put vowels on them in order to give them a sound. So for example, you have a letter. Let's take 3 letters here. You have a dad, you have a ra, and you have a ba. Okay? These are 3 letters, just 3 consonants. You cannot pronounce this in Arabic. This has actually no real sound. So what you do is you put a bunch of vowels on this. Right? So the first vowel is called a fatha. And the fatha is simply this stroke, this line that goes on top and it's diagonal like this. Okay? What this does, it takes the letter and it gives it the sound of da. So the sound is da, it gives a da sound, but now it goes up and it goes da. And then you put the same thing on a ra and the sound becomes ra. And you put it on a ba and the b sound becomes ba. So now you put it all together and you read it and you say da, ra, ba. Okay, so this is what fatha does basically. And remember, one of the prerequisites for this class was that you should at least be able to read basic Arabic. So I'm going to be going very fast on this because I'm assuming that most people do know this, or they're going to go and get caught up really, really fast. All right, the next one is called kasra. Kasra looks like it looks like a fatha, but the difference is what? I didn't hear any. It's below, exactly. All right, so now it's below. So we write one of these and we got a kasra. We write one of these, we got a kasra. So now this ba sound becomes b, and the ka sound becomes ki. So the sound is the e. And then we go and we take a dhamma, and the dhamma looks like a little tiny waw that's placed on top. So you take, for example, this qaf, and you place a dhamma on it, and the sound becomes qu. Right? So now imagine we were to take this first word, right? And we were to place, we were just play around with the letters, right? So we put a u here, put a here, put a e here. What kind of word am I getting? Do, ra, bi. Right? Do, ra, bi, which has generally no meaning in Arabic, but you get the point. Then if you have something like this thing called a sukoon. A sukoon is usually, there's a number of ways to write it. Either you put a little circle above the letter, or you put, there's so many different ways of actually writing the sukoon. We're going to use the circle connotation, or we're not going to put anything on the letter. So let's take this fatha. I'm just going to convert it. Just imagine with me for a moment. This just converted to a giant circle, or a mini circle. Now what? How do you read this word now? What is the word? Darba. So now it's not daraba, it's darba. So the stops. Imagine we were going to take this fatha and turn it into a sukoon as well. Now what do we got? Darb. Right? You stop. Darb. Okay? So that's the way sukoon works. So sukoon is good. Keep in mind something. So short vowels are usually not written in texts. Okay? So most texts you find will not have the short vowels on them. In this book, we're going to start with them and we're going to start phasing them out. So once you start learning words, you're going to know automatically that, for example, this word, I'm going to circle it one more time. This word, once you identify this word, some of you already know it. All right? What is this word? It's layl. So there's a fatha on the lam, there is a sukoon on the ya, and then there's a, we just read it for the purpose of sukoon on the lam at the end. So you have fatha, sukoon, sukoon, and you get the word layl. Now how in the world did they know that there was a fatha? How do you know it's not a kasra? How do you know it's not a dhamma? Right? How did they know? Because they know the word, and it's a word in the Arabic language. That's just the way it is. So the more you learn these words, you don't even need to write the vowels out. You automatically know what they're going to be. So that's not even needed. So the more words you learn, the more you'll naturally start seeing this. Okay, so don't worry too much about it. So let's look at exercise 0.7 real quick. So it's saying, read the following words out loud. Now remember what I told you last week. The technique that we're going to be using is, before you say it out loud and either ruin it for everybody or look like a fool in front of everybody, either one. Checking live streaming, it's working. So before you do that, you say it silently to yourself, and then we say it out loud. Everyone can follow this rule, please? Okay? So look at number 1, say it to yourself, and then I'm going to say, we're all going to say it out loud. And then you're going to see if you said it right or not silently in your mind. Okay, so look at number 1. Okay, now say it out loud. Maryamu. How many of you got it right? Okay, less than half the class. So it means, so here's the thing. So that little ya and meme combination, I know it's looking like this weird combination of like coming down. So this happens to be a style of calligraphy. In reality, according to our style that we're learning, it would look like this: ya and then meme. So if you had this, would you have gotten it correctly? Perhaps, right? So this little like kind of, this is just a style of calligraphy, and it's a Microsoft Word font. So that's why it's that way. Your eyes will get used to it, and you'll start looking at it and you say, come on, you know, this versus this, they gotta be the same thing. Like what could this letter possibly be? It can't be a noon, it can't be a ta, because the dots would be on top. It can't be a sheen, it can't be a jim, it can't be a it can't be a alif. It's gotta be a ya. You'll get you'll just get the feel of it. So just the more you read, the more you'll get the feel of even combinations of letters which you've never seen before. And you're like, that's kind of weird. I've never seen that. But you'll know it. It'll just start becoming natural. So don't worry, don't panic, or if you see something like this and you miss something like this. Number 2. Now number 2 is a lot easier because there's no trick here. Okay? So say it to yourself. To yourself. To yourself. All right, let's try that again. All right. Say it to yourself. Okay, now say it out loud. Qul. Right? So see on the lam, do you see the sukoon on the lam? I saw some people say yes. I don't see a sukoon on the lam. Do you see sukoon on the lam? You don't. What is on the lam? Nothing. So what is implied? Sukoon. It's implied, but you don't see it. Okay? The next word, say it to yourself. Okay, this is going to be very difficult if we have a hard time following instructions. Say it to yourself. Okay? Say it to yourself. Okay, now say it out loud. Eid. Okay, Eid. Okay, next one. Say it to yourself. MashaAllah. And now out loud. Jabal. Okay? Jim, ba, lam. The next one. This is a little bit tricky because it's got some strange writing. I'm going to write it for you here of how it's supposed to naturally look. And you see if you figured it out properly or not. Right? Okay, say it to yourself. Okay, now say it out loud. Bahr. Right? Yes.
Both ways are okay, or
Both ways? No. This is just a calligraphy style. It's okay if you write it like this. Yeah, this is a okay way of writing. This is a more complicated way of writing, actually. It's more stylistic. And I know people who know Urdu and Farsi, they're just gonna cheat and use the stylistic way because they already know it. It's just easier for them, but it's okay. All right. The next one. Say it to yourself. Okay, now say it out loud. Shams. Okay, good. So what's on the meme? Implied sukoon. What's on the scene? Implied sukoon. Next word. Say it to yourself. Out loud. Qamar. Next one. Say it to yourself. Out loud. Kutub. Next one. To yourself. To yourself. Now out loud. Nahar. Good. To yourself. Next one, out loud, shahr. Okay. Next one to yourself. I can just imagine playing. What's that game called? Simon Says. I can just imagine Simon Says here. It's gonna be brutal. All right. To yourself. Okay. Now out loud, shariba. Good. Next one to yourself. Out loud, hasibtum. Good. To yourself, out loud, rajul. Good. To yourself, out loud, walad. Next one, out loud, bint. Good. We got that. Almost caught you off guard, right? Sexy. All right. Good. So that's easy, right? Everything is good so far. Now we have long vowels. The long vowels, basically, there's only 3 of them. Okay, 3 letters are long vowels. Alif, waw, and ya. Now here's the thing. Didn't I tell you that these letters that we've been talking about, these are consonants. Alif is a consonant, waw is a consonant, ya is a consonant. That's true. But these consonants can also be used as vowels, but never as short vowels, only as long vowels. And the way you make a long vowel is by attaching one of these letters to another word, to another letter that precedes it. So for example, you take the letter ba, right? And you attach an alif to it. You put an alif here, okay? And then you show a little fathah here to show, little fathah here. So instead of saying ba, now the fathah becomes long. So the becomes multiplied by 2. So how long does it take you to say Just Now multiply that by 2 and you get So double the length. If you go you just tripled it, quadrupled it, too much there. So you just gotta slow down. So you get ba. Now here's the interesting thing about long vowels. Like this alif here, right? If you have a ba and you have an alif, right? it is impossible for you to have a dhamma on it. It's impossible. It can never exist in the Arabic language. So it cannot be dhamma. You don't even need to worry about it. It can never be a kasra. It doesn't exist. You cannot have a letter with the kasra and then followed by an alif. So the really cool thing is, even if you're a beginner and you see ba and alif like this, right? Imagine you see this word and I tell you, I'm not going to give you any vowels at all, except I'm going to tell you that there's a sukoon here, but I'm not giving you any more vowels. I'm only giving you one vowel out of 3. Can you tell me with 100% certainty what this word is? It's bab, because it can't be anything else. There's no other option. So this is really cool. This alif is like your friend in the sense it helps you to be able to read without even knowing the vowels, because it has to have a vowel, it has to have a fatha, and then it gets elongated with the kasra. Okay, so this is a long vowel, number 1. Okay, so you take mim and alif, and what do you get? Ma. Good. Now you take the waw, okay, and you take any letter and you add the waw to it, okay, and you put a dhamma before it. Okay, so now instead of saying bu, you get bu, double the length. Right? So this is a long vowel. Now you cannot have a kasra, but you can have a fatha here. Right? So this is not as friendly. It's not as much your friend as the alif, but it's still somewhat your friend in the sense that you can kind of see where it's going. Okay, so what we're gonna do is, if you see a letter combination like this, ba and a waw, and I don't give you any vowels, you should assume that it's a long vowel, and therefore the ba has to have what on it? A dhamma. Because this is the way it works. The alif as a long vowel is preceded by a fatha, and the waw as a long vowel is preceded by a dhamma, and the ya as a long vowel is preceded by a kasra. Okay, so we see this example, bu, right? Let's take another example, zal, waw, and you get zu, and technically what's on this zal here? It's a dhamma. Okay, very good. All right, now let's do the last one, is a ya. Ya preceded by a kasra makes a long vowel. So we take the letter fa, we put a ya after it. And what should be the short vowel on the fa written? Should be a kasra. Right? So we get what now? Fi, right? Fi, good. Huh? Oh, you can't see it? Oh, okay. Because of my head? That's it. The live stream people can see it just fine. Okay, yeah. So, fi. We got it? The good? Clear? Okay, so this is the way long vowels work. Now we're just going to read the following out loud. Hopefully you did the homework and you already wrote this out. So let's read. Say it to yourself. Now say it out loud. Muslimuna. So where's the long vowel? Mu, the waw in the mu, because there's a dhamma before the waw. Muslimuna. So that mu is the long vowel. Say the next one to yourself. Now say it out loud. Alamina. How many long vowels? 2. The alif and the ya. So a and mi. 2 long vowels. Say the next one to yourself and out loud. Nuh. So nu is the long vowel. Say the next one to yourself. To yourself. Now say it out loud. Hud. To yourself and out loud. Ramadanu. To yourself, out loud. Rasul. To yourself, out loud. Now. To yourself, out loud. Mal. To yourself, out loud. Masjid. To yourself, out loud. Zaman. To yourself, out loud. Dar. Good. That is the long vowel. Now we have something called lean or diphthongs. Okay, so lean or diphthong, which is a weird sounding word, but that's a grammatical term. Basically, it's a 2-letter combinations which will result in a slightly different sound. So there's only 2 of them. Basically, it's a waw preceded by a fatha and a ya preceded by a fatha as well. Okay, so we have some letter here. Okay, I'm gonna write some letter here. I'm gonna fill this in a moment. Okay, so you say, okay, well, what's the point of this, right? This is not a long vowel. So what does this do exactly? So let's take an example. Where are my examples here? Anyways, okay, let's take an example. Lam and wow. Okay, if I wrote a dhamma on the lam, what would it sound like? Lu, right? But if I write a fatha on the lam, if you don't know what a diphthong is yet, if you have not learned this, what should it sound like? Let's look at the two sounds independently. There's a sound of la, and there's a sound of woo, right? Because sukoon on the wow, woo, la and woo. So technically, you'd be saying la woo, la woo, like that, and you combine it together. But what happens is, because this sounds weird and it's hard to pronounce, what the Arabs used to do, whatever Arabs have done in the past, not modern Arabs, but in the past, they decide what their language is going to be. Whatever sounds weird to them, doesn't seem right, they can modify it, and that becomes part of the language. Okay? So what they did was, instead of saying la-wu, they said low. So what you do is you make this sound like the English word oh, right? Like oh, oh, wow, right? Oh. So you make this oh sound and you say low. So you take the meme and a wow, you put a fatha on it, and you get mo, right? Not mo, but mo. Kind of flows nicely, kind of rolls off, it just comes out of your mouth nicely, right? So that's what a diphthong is, basically. Same thing, you take lam and you put a ya, and instead you put a fatha here. So what you would normally get was a la and a yi. So you get la yi. But instead you combine them together and you get lay, lay. You put a meme and a ya, put a fatha there, and you get may, right? May, just like may you take some food, may you, please get me some water or something like that. Something like that. I have water, I'm fine. Just in case any of you wanted to get the extra reward then. So like exercise 0.9. Read the following words out loud, first to yourself, now out loud. Bathe. Okay. Next one, to yourself, out loud. Maut. Out to yourself, out loud. Muslimaini. See that? May. Muslimaini. Okay. Next one, to yourself, out loud. Low. To yourself, out loud. Yom. Yom. Got that? Pretty clear. So this is known as diphthongs or lean. It's known as lean. Okay. So now we see another thing. It's called the round ta or ta marbuta, which means a tied ta. So we'll see that. So you've seen this letter already. This is, what letter is this? Ta. If I add one more dot on top of it, what would it become? Ta. Good. So now, in addition to this letter, there's a second form of this. You can say it's its brother, right? It's this looking thing. It's a circle with two dots. Okay. Sometimes you see it written like something like this, where it's kind of tied, and then it's got the two dots. Okay. We're just gonna stick with this one. Okay. It should be connected here. So this is known as ta marbuta. Okay. So this is another way of writing it. Now, here's a few important facts about this letter. So this one right here, this is called ta maftuha. And you don't need to memorize these Arabic terms unless you want to study, Arabic in some Arabic country or something like that. You don't need to know it per se. So ta maftuha means an open ta. So you see this? See how it's open? Right? It's open and it's got two dots. This is called the closed ta or the tied ta. It's been tied in a knot. So basically what you did is you pick up these two sides and you move them and you bring them together and you get this little circle. That's exactly what happened. Very simple. You can see how why it's called closed ta and open ta and all of that. So it's basically a ha, because this is another way to write a ha, right? In one of the forms, and it's got two dots on top of it. Okay, that's all it is. This letter only, this form of ta only occurs at the end of a word. Okay, so that's a very good trick. If you can remember this, This is going to help you so much. So imagine you see all of a sudden some guy writing, okay, I'm going to write this, and then I write this, and then I got a ya here. And you're like, whoa, whoa, buddy. This ta right here can only occur at the end of the word, so I'm sorry, something is wrong, or this is like a separate word here. You got to have a space here. Can't work. And there's another really cool thing about this, is that it is always followed by, unless it's a long vowel, it's always followed by a fatha. Always. Cannot be followed by anything else, right? So let me give you an example. So if you take, so the way to write this in its independent form is this. In its connected form, it comes from the side, goes up, comes back down around, and you got that. Okay, so that's the same letter. That's the end writing, the way to write it at the end of a letter. Okay, so now here, let's take the letter ba, throw this ta here at the end, right? Okay, and I'm gonna put a dhamma on it. I'm not gonna tell you what's on the ba. Who can read it for me? Yes. Batu. How did he know that it's fatha? I didn't tell him it's fatha. I told him I'm not going to tell you what's on the ba. Why can't it be kasra? Why can't it be dhamma? The rule is it's always preceded by a fatha. So what is this? It's preceded by, has to be preceded by a fatha. So this is really cool. So if you ever see any one of these things, you know that if anyone reads before this letter, puts a kasra in there, they messed up. So that means if I give you, I'll give you, here's an example. Here's an example. This okay, I'm just picking a word that doesn't have any meaning. Well, yeah, technically it does. Okay. I only gave you one letter. That's the last letter. There's dhamma. How many letters we have? 1, 2, 3, 4 letters in this word. But I'm only going to give you the last letter. Who can tell me how to pronounce this with 100% certainty? Yes, please, in the back. Babatu. You're 100% sure? Is there any second opinion that can exist? Cannot. It has to be this because the alif has to be preceded by a fatha, and the ta, marbuta, the round ta, has to be preceded by a fatha. This is really cool, right? Now you're reading words without even knowing the vowels, and you don't even know what it means, if it has any meaning, right? So, anyways, in a Christian context, it could be the Pope or something. All right, anyways, continuing. We got that. So we got the ta marbuta down. Let's take a look at. Okay, so there's one more thing about the ta marbuta that we did not cover yet, and that is that any time this ta has a sukoon on it, it turns into the sound of a ya. You pronounce it as a ha, with the sukoon on top, right? So basically, imagine this. See this? I gave you this dhamma, right? I'm removing this now. This is gone. We're going back in time. This is gone. So somebody tell me, there is a sukoon on the last letter. Okay, that's all I'm giving you. How do you pronounce this? Baba, right? But you keep the 2 dots written on there. But the 2 dots don't. They stay there, but you don't pronounce it. So it's not a ta anymore. You don't pronounce it as a ta. You're pronouncing it as a ta when it ends. Okay? So let's take one more example here. That's all I'm giving you is one letter. The rest of them are sukoons, and you should figure out by yourself what it should be. So how would you pronounce this? Yes. Kabira. How did you know that? The ka is clear fatha. How did you know it's B? Because I said whenever there's a ya and preceding it is another letter, we're gonna assume if I don't give you anything, assume it's a long vowel. And if ya is a long vowel, what has to come before it? Kasra. Exactly. So we know it's B. Now you have a ra. You don't know what's on the ra, but you look afterwards and you see a ta, round ta. And the round ta means it has to have fatha before. So there's no other option. So technically what we have here is a kasra here, we have a sukoon here, we have a fatha here, and we have a sukoon here. The only one I gave you was this. I gave you one, actually I gave you two, and I gave you this. You figured out the rest by yourself. So kabira. And if you change this sukoon here to a dhamma, what would it be? Kabira. 2. So now the ta sound comes back. If it's a sukoon, no ta sound. If it has a vowel, the ta sound is there. Clear? Let's do some pronunciation. Exercise 0.10. Number 1, say to yourself, now out loud, Fatimati. Okay. Number 2, to yourself, now out loud, Madinata. To yourself, out loud, Hiya saghira. To yourself, out loud, Kalimata. To yourself, out loud, Jadidatu. Now put a sukoon on the last word, on the last letter of the last word. How would you say it now to yourself? Okay. Am I going to call myself Simon from now on? Is that the only way it's going to work? Okay, it's alright. Okay, say it now out loud. Jadida. Alright, ha, Jadida. Got it? Alright, so now we're good. Let's move on. Tanween. Okay, what's known as nunation. I don't know who came up with this. This is not like some kind of state, Islamic state or something like that. Okay. Nunation, tanween, meaning you're adding a noon to something. You're noonizing something. All it means is you're adding a noon. So we're gonna see what this. So what happens is, at the end of some words, the vowel signs may be written twice on the same letter. So let's take this ba, right? Here we have fatha. Right? Now you write one more fatha. You got 2 fathas. So whoa, what does 2 fathas do? What it actually does is it gives you the sound of one fatha, and then it gives you the sound that the second fatha indicates there's a noon with the sukoon coming afterwards. So this, what you just have, is actually equal to ban. Right? This is the way it works. Okay? So now, if you have a ba and you have 2 kasras, what is it equal to? Bin. Okay? Now, if you have a ba and you throw one dhamma and a second dhamma, you don't always write the second dhamma. There's another way of writing it by just putting a little line going down like backward. There's so many different ways to write this other one. One way to write it is literally with 2. One way to write it is like this, and then you come up with the stroke. And one way to write it is like this, and you go like that. There's many ways to write it. If you see a dhamma, and then there's some other weird thing going on there, it's got to be a tanween. This is what it is, okay? So how do you say this one right here? Bun. Very good. Very simple concept. Nothing complicated about it. Okay, so one more thing is, with a 2 fathas, okay, if you have one of these, right, and if any letter, if this follows any letter except the ta, you add an extra alif. So I'm going to give you an example, okay? So you have this. Okay, say that, imagine that there's a sukoon on the ba. What would you read? Kitab. Okay. Now, if I put 2 dhammas, okay, how do you read this now? Kitabun. Good. Now, if I undo this, it allows me to undo. Okay, now I put 2 kasras here. What do I get? Kitabin. Good. Now if I add 2 fathas here, what do I get? Kitaban. But here's the trick. Whenever you do this and you add 2 fathas at the end here, you know what happens? This magically, this alif comes, which does nothing. It's not pronounced. It's just an alif. It's actually a little bit too long. Okay? See, it was so... It's trying to show you in the beginning that it's there, right? It's like there's an alif there, right? Imagine this alif is longer too. Imagine this kaf becomes longer as well, right? So now we're getting there, right? So this little alif right here at the end that's being added, okay? This alif magically appears and is just there. You don't do anything with it. Don't mess with it. Don't pronounce it. Don't look at it, but make sure you write it. Okay, that's all you got to do. So let's say I'm going to give you a ba, okay? And I want to write bun. Okay, you write bun. Good. We're good to go. You want to write bin. Okay, no problem. Now I want to write bun. This is not going to work anymore. You want to write bun? What do? You throw an alif in there, and you write 2 fathas here, or you're also allowed to write the 2 fathas on top of the alif. It's just a style. But the way you pronounce this is bun. That alif does nothing. Remember, this is like this useless alif. It has a purpose, but anyways, this is just the alif that's just sitting there, and you don't want to mess with it. Right? You don't mess with this alif. Okay? Just leave the question for now. Just leave the question. All right. So you don't want to play with this. This alif is good. You can write on here, or you can write on top of the alif. You're good to go. Okay. So we're good here. Kitaban, kitaban, kitabin. Okay. So we saw that. So now that's all. Okay. So the only other thing is, the only letter that you do not write this additional alif on is the ta marbuta. Okay. So let's say you have ta marbuta and you put an here. This is the only one you don't add it. You know why? Because with the ta marbuta, if you were to add the alif, you know what happened? It would become an open ta now. It would have to open up. That's the way it works. Why? Because the closed ta can only exist at the end of the word. So if you add another letter, it's not at the end of the word anymore. And there's like a jealousy between these two. One of them wants to be at the end. All right, so the ta takes precedence because the alif doesn't really do anything. Clear? Okay, now let's do exercise 0.11. Read the following out loud to yourself. Now out loud. Masjidun. To yourself. Out loud. Kitabin. To yourself. Out loud. Qalaman. To yourself. Out loud. Babun. Yourself. Out loud. Jabalin. To yourself. Loud. Kalimatun. Yourself. Loud. Madinatan. You see the Madinatan? There's no additional alif there. See the word qalaman? Additional alif. Right? Where are the 2 fathas written? On the meme or on the additional alif? On the alif. Right. So you could do both. Both of them are fine. So we're good. Alhamdulillah. Moving on. The doubling sign is known as shadda. So there's this little thing that looks like a half scene. And when it goes on top of a letter, basically this is the way it works. In Arabic, you're not supposed to have 2 letters written together separately. Right? So you're not supposed to have 2 letters written together. So for example, without going into the philosophy of this, I'm just going to show you a very clear example. So let's say you want to write this word. That's a sukoon, fatha, sukoon, fatha. Okay? Who can read this word? Just read it all, everyone. Makkah. Right? Makkah. So what happens is, see this? 2 letters in a row. 2 of the same letters in a row. One has a sukoon, one has a fatha. This is not allowed in Arabic. Arab said, no, don't write 2 letters in a row. That's weird, because just imagine how you pronounce it. Makkah. It's like stopping. You can't stop the mak and then the ka and then start it up again. It's tough. So what they did was they took this kind of combination and they say, what we're going to do is we're just going to write this letter ka. We're just going to write it one time, put this little sign, which means it's double. It's 2 kafs. And if we want this fatha here, so we put a fatha on top, and we get the sound of ka. I can't do it. You have to have something before it, right? So you put the meme before it, right? You get Makkah, right? If you wanted to make this a kasra, you put the line underneath instead of this thing, and you get Makki. Another way to write this, instead of, now this is, you have to note this, okay? Instead of writing it underneath, remove this, you can actually write it underneath the shadda, like that. So if you see a line above the letter, but below the shadda, that is a kasra, right? That's a kasra. Do you know my theory of why somebody would do this, why this became a standard form? Because imagine this, your pen is moving like this, right? And then you write this ka, your pen is moving, now your pen moves to make the shadda. Why move your pen all the way down here when you could just make this little line? That's time saved, right? And Muslims are about saving time and using it for good things. So this is a great way to save time by writing it right underneath the letter. You save a few fractional seconds of your life, which you can use to praise Allah or do something else. So this is what a shadda is. Okay, this is the way it works. So assuming that you know that now, let's look at exercise 0.12 and start reading the following out loud. I need to zoom a little bit here. Whoa. Okay, I zoomed too much. Completely lost my place. What exercise did I just say? 0.12? Yeah, okay. So exercise, okay, number 1, to yourself, out loud. Rabbun. Yourself, loud. Nabiyyin. Self, loud. Jannatan. Self, loud. Muhammadun. Self, loud. Kullun. Alright, so this requires a little bit of practice. You go home, you double check it, you watch this video which is being recorded and uploaded to YouTube, go back and you check all your exercises and everything. So that's shadda. So shadda, we're good. Now we got this letter called Hamza. So this Hamza, okay, this is the letter Hamza. Hamza actually did not exist at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. It was not written as a letter. Okay. And I'm not going to give you the history of the Hamza because it's not really relevant. People have literally written their PhD thesis on the origin of how the Hamza came about. I actually have a teacher who wrote one on the Hamza. So, and I didn't read it because I didn't want to read it, nor did I care to read it. But anyways, the cool thing about Hamza is Hamza can either be written by itself like this, or Hamza can sit on top of another letter. It's like a European power. It goes and colonizes other letters, right? From the Middle Age perspective, right? It goes and takes over, other letters. Anyways, so it's my little political rant there. All right, so it can sit on top of a alif. It can sit on top of a ya. So you got a ya there. It can sit right on top of that, right? It can sit on top of a waw. But it can't sit on any other letters. So you got 4 options for the Hamza. Either it can be a loner, right, by itself, or it can sit on an alif, sit on a waw, or sit on a ya. Okay, so just you remember this, right? And if you're asking, okay, why the waw and why the alif and why the ya, right? That's a very good question. That's going to help you remember which letters. Why? There you go. See? Why? Right? Why? So now you're never going to forget that you asked why and now you got the answer. Problem solved. I just made that one up on the spot. Anyways, so this helps, right? So you'll remember. So it can sit on this or it can be by itself. So you got 4 options for the Hamza. Now the thing is, writing the Hamza and knowing which letter to write it on is very complicated. And it's actually an advanced topic, something which a lot of people make mistakes on. So what we're going to do is just give you a few tips, a few hints. Okay? And the hints are here on your notes. So when the Hamza is in its initial position, it is always written above or below an alif. It can actually be below. I forgot to tell you that. It can be above an alif or it can be below an alif. Now when it's above an alif, it can have a fatha, okay? Or when it's above an alif, it can have a dhamma. When it's below the alif, guess what it's gonna have? A kasra. Okay? You're not gonna write a dhamma down there or something like that. So that's the way it is. Now, could you imagine perhaps why? What could be the possible reason why the Hamza is written below when it's a kasra? You save time, right? You don't have to raise your pen up here and then raise your pen back down there. We're just saving time, mashallah, alhamdulillah. It's beautiful language, right? Save a lot of time. Anyways, so that's when it's in initial position, you're not gonna ever see a word with the Hamza like this in the beginning, and then all of a sudden you see a ba, and then you see a wow, and then you see a meme. You're not gonna see this because Hamza is the first letter in this word. And when Hamza is in the initial position, it has to be written on what? On alif. So this is gone, and this transforms into an alif. Either top or bottom, you don't know yet, depending on this word, whatever this word is, which has no meaning. Boom has a meaning, but not with alif before it. Okay, so that's in initial position. So initial position is easy. You shouldn't make a mistake. You know it's on alif. Medial position, it can be written on a alif. It can be written on a waw. It can be written on a ya. You have no idea until you figure out all these detailed complex rules, which you're not going to learn right now because it's not that important. So take the word Sin, Hamza. We don't say alif anymore. When Hamza is on a letter, it literally colonizes it. You don't even call it the letter anymore. So you don't say Sin, Alif, Lam. You say Sin, Hamza, Lam. Okay? So now, this is Hamza written in which position? Medial position or middle position. It can be written on the alif. Here's one example. Another example is the word, that one. Okay? Ha, Hamza, Lam, Alif, Hamza. In this one, you see, in the middle position, it's written on a waw. And then you look at your notes and you find that there's another word, bi'r, right? Now you see this? This is what it did. Hamza is so powerful, it colonized the ya so much so that even the two dots were removed. See that? There were two dots on this ya. You see the ya, right? These two dots are gone, right? That's how powerful this Hamza was, right? So it's here, it's losing its dots. You see it in real time. Boom. It's taken over completely. So that's the way it works. So this is Hamza written on a ya without the dots. Okay? And then if it's in its final position, it can be written in any four of these forms. It can be any one of these. And you saw an example already. Where's that example? Right here. See this? This was the last letter and it was written by itself. Or it could be written on an alif, or it could be written on a ya, or it could be written on a waw. So it's very tough to figure out these rules. I mean, it's a little bit tricky. It's not that hard. I can teach you in 10 minutes. In 5 minutes, you can learn it. But it's not necessary for you to know right now, so don't worry about it. Just learn how to identify the Hamza. So let's do exercise 0.13 and start reading out loud. Number 1, to yourself, out loud. Ardun. Yourself, out loud. Sama'u. Yourself, loud. Mu'minin. That's what's on the Hamza? Sukun, because we didn't write a letter. Implied sukun. Mu'minin. Next, self, loud. Abun. Self, loud. Ummun. See that? Shadda combined with the tanween, combined with the Hamza. Got 3 little new things in there. Self, loud. Sa'ala. Self, loud. Ja'a. Self, loud. Shay'in. And here's the tricky one, right? So take a second. Say it to yourself. Now say it out loud. Sa'altumuniha. Got that? That's actually an Arabic word. Learn that later. All right. We're good? Next, we learn wasla. Okay? Wasla or hamzatul wasl. So now this is the hamza we just learned. When we say hamza, we're referring to this hamza. But when we say hamzatul wasl or wasla, we're referring to a different type. So you know ta had two types. There's an open ta and a round ta. Right? Open and closed ta. There is a hamza, normal hamza, and then there's this other hamza called wasl, which is the connecting hamza. Okay, so this, where is it? This is a little tricky thing. So the way that it works is this. In Arabic, here are some other rules. You do not start with two consonants in a row. Can anyone guess why you do not start with two consonants in a row? Why do you need a vowel? Why can't you just start with two consonants in a row? Huh? So it doesn't look like a question? No. Just because the Arabs thought it was tough to pronounce. They said, forget this, we're not going to do this. Right? So what you do is, let's take an example. You have a ba and you have a noon. And what you have here is you have a sukoon on the ba. Right? And then you have some letter, it doesn't matter what letter or there's a sukoon on there. So what would you get? You get bin. Right? How can you start with a consonant with the sukoon? How can you start a word with the, right? It's just weird. Right? So what they said is this is hard, man, to say bin, bin. So what we do is let's throw some sound before it, right? If you say bin, it's hard. If you were to say abn, easier. If you say ubn, easier. If you say ibn, actually that flows really nicely. So the Arab said, hey, let's throw this I in there, so we get ibn instead. So what we do is, we want to throw a kasra here. So you add a kasra if any word is going to start with a sukoon and on the consonant. So you know, we need to throw this kasra in here to make it sound easier. So we get the word ibn. But if we're throwing a kasra, what do we need to do also? We need to have some, we can't just have a kasra sitting by itself. Kasra has to be connected to some letter. So what's a good letter to throw in there? Well, obviously we're making this I sound, so let's put an alif. Okay, put an alif, and they put a little I here. Okay, now here's what happens. So technically they said, but this is not a real kasra. This is not real. So what we should do is, so that people don't get confused, they might think this is a real hamza sitting at the bottom of the alif with the kasra, but it's not. We have to make it clear to them that it's not. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this cool little trick. And we're going to write the word like this. Alright? Sukoon is here. Right? Assuming that this is a sukoon or whatever, it makes no difference. We want this I sound, but we don't want it to be hamza. So what we're going to do is we're not going to tell you what the sound, we need some sound, but we're not going to tell you exactly what it is. We're not going to write it out for you. So we're going to write this little Sod looking like symbol here. Okay, that little symbol with the alif here is called hamzatul wasl. It's the connecting hamza. Right? All this is therefore its purpose is to stop you from starting letters with consonants. Right? And this is something interesting because people who speak Urdu, right, when they're trying to speak English, right, and they're trying to say the word special. Do you know what they say? Is special. Right? They don't say special, they say is special. Do you know why they're saying is special? Because they understand hamzatul wasl. They said, we don't like this. You're going to start with this. That's a sin with a sukoon on it. You can't start with the sukoon letter. You got to add a hamzatul wasl in there. So we add an I in there, right? So if you say, are you going to school? You say, no. You're going to is school. True or not true, right? That's the way it is. Maybe Farsi too or no? Farsi too, same thing. So if you're wondering why do they have this weird accent? Why they keep making all these things? It's because they are special. They are special people. That's it. No, that's part of their language. So the thing is, they're following this Arabic. So this Arabic connotation here because they have the same rule. So this is what Hamzatul Wasl basically is. So all you have to know, let's see what you have to know here. What you need to know is just the way that it works, the way that it's written already. So why is this used? Okay, so this is the thing. At the beginning of a sentence, right, you're going to be using this, and if you pause while reading, you're also going to be using this. But here's the interesting thing about this little sign. The interesting thing is this. So now let's imagine you got the same little thing we just wrote out, right? You got a ba, you got a sukun here, okay? You say, look, if I'm going to start reading this from the beginning of a sentence, I need a I here, ibn, right? But imagine I'm going to throw one word before it. I'm going to put a wa, just the sound of a wa. You know what? I don't need this I sound. I don't need to say wa ibn, right? Let's just make life easier. So you know what? If I've added a vowel before this while I'm reading, I don't need this guy anymore. I'm going to leave him in writing. I'm just going to pretend like he's not there because he's not needed right now. So he's not needed, so I'm going to say wabn. Wabn. This Hamzatul Wasl right here with the little sign and all that, this guy is not needed. All of a sudden, if this wow disappears, I decide, you know what? I'm going to erase this. I don't want this wow anymore. Now, oh, I have a sukoon. I need this guy again. So I'm going to bring him back for my benefit, and I'm going to pronounce this ibn. That's all you got to know. So when you need the wasla, it's there for you. And when you don't need it, you leave it in writing, but you don't do anything with it. It just sits there. It just sits there. Okay, so just know that for now. Okay? And everyone thought they already knew the Arabic letters, right? Yeah. Okay. So let's take an example here. Ibn will be read ibn. Okay. So here's another example. This actually is just a lam with a sukoon on it. Okay, but if we're starting a sentence, what do we want to do with it? Right? We need to add some vowel. So on this letter with the lam, instead of saying il, you know what? Il, just the e and the lam, just it kind of sounds weird in your mouth. That's what the classical Arabs thought. So they say, you know, the il doesn't sound good, and the ul a little bit better, but al, oh, that feels good. My tongue feels good. So now this automatically, this Hamzatul Wasl happens to be a fatha. You just have to know the way it is. So for Hamzatul Wasl, you have to figure it out. It's either going to be a fatha or a dhamma or a kasra. You don't know unless you know what the word is. And the words are going to be written with this. So this happens to be fatha, so it's al. Now here's the thing. If I put a waw and a fatha here, like I said before, what am I going to pronounce this as? Wal. Right? And you leave it in writing. If I take away this waw, what do I get? Al. Al. Okay? So, let's take one more example before we get to the exercises. So, I'm going to write did I mess that up? No. This is a sukoon. This is a fatha. So there's a lean diphthong here, and this is a dhamma, and okay, that you should know. Ba followed by ya normally defaults to a kasra, which means B. Okay, and dhamma. Okay, so now we're gonna read these two words separately. Don't read them together. The first word is al-baytu. The second word is al-kabiru. Now we're gonna read the words together in one breath, in one sentence, and so say it to yourself first. Focus. Both of these are waslas. This is a wasla. This is a wasla. I want you to think about it for 5 seconds. how you're going to read this as a whole. Okay, now think about it. Okay, now let's read it out loud. Al-Baytul Kabiru. So the first wasla was pronounced as a fatha, and the second wasla was not pronounced. But if we read it as an independent word, it is pronounced. So let's say I'm reading this long sentence, and then I get to al-baytu, and I stop, I'm out of breath. Okay, now I'm going to continue reading from the next word. You say al-kabiru. But if you have breath and you're going to keep on reading, you say al-baytul kabiru. Imagine this was written one more time. I'm duplicating this and adding two more of the same words. How would we read it? Al-baytul kabiru, al-baytul kabiru. So there's one and the other three, you just ignore them completely because you read them in a sequence. Good? Okay, let's do exercise 0.14. Number 1 to yourself, out loud. Imra'atun. So I wrote the kasra there for you to let you know this word happens to have a kasra. So you're going to learn which letter goes with the word. You're just going to memorize that. Next word, yourself, loud. Ibnin. Self, loud. Isman. Self, loud. Al-yawma. Self, loud. Unsur. Self, loud. Ittakhadhtum. Self, loud. Faktub. Faktub. Right? So you see that? Fa, and the thing, this was the kaf and the fa connected. So because of the fact that the fa has a fatha on it, a vowel, you don't need that alif anymore. It stays there in writing. That little alif was a wasla, by the way. Okay? So if there's an alif, and yeah, so that could be a little bit tricky actually. I see that. Some of you might have thought that this is a fa, perhaps, right? That I didn't write it in, but that's a little wasla. Imagine there's a wasla sign on that alif. Okay? Apology, you can write it in yourself. The next one, say yourself and out loud. Wal qalami. Who did 100% on that reading? Oh, that's bad statistic. It's okay. Go home and practice it. You'll get it, inshallah. Next one, alif maqsura. We have to start with chapter 1, so we gotta move a little bit faster here. Alif maqsura. Sometimes when an alif is at the end of a word, it's actually written as a ya without the two dots. So let me give you an example. So you see this? What is this? If I don't give you any vowel, oh no, you can't tell that. If I don't give you any vowels, what is it now? I give you one vowel only. It's ala, right? Because the lam has to have a fatha because it's alif after, right? We got that? So actually, the way you write this thing instead is like this. But you know, ya has two dots. So in our style of writing, we're not going to write the two dots. You know what that means now? It means that this little guy, this ya, is actually an alif, right? So I read one interesting book by a guy. He calls this alif maqsura as a ya masquerading as an alif, pretending to be an alif. And that's actually a very good description. So basically this ya, he's pretending that he's just covered up in a alif form, right? So this ya right here without two dots is actually an alif. In our class, to make your life easier, whenever you see a ya at the end, like or like this at the end without two dots, it means automatically that it is a wasla. Alif maqsura. Alif maqsura. Okay. So let's take a sample here. You have. Okay. How do you pronounce that? Sa. Right? We're getting there. What's another word? Yeah, we're all not from the exercises. There, yeah. What is this word? Huda. Okay, huda. So it's a sound. So now look at exercise 0.15 and start reading. Self. Oh, I didn't give you the vowel. No, I don't need to give you the bell. Self, out loud. Musa. Self, out loud. Mustafa. A very nice name, mashallah. Self, out loud. Ra'a. So that's even the hamza on a alif with another alif maqsura following. Next one, self. Loud. Ila. Good? Very easy. Okay, moving on. Now we have something called madda. Okay? Madda is basically if you have a hamza, whatever it is written on anything, and it's followed by an alif, a real alif, not a hamza alif, not a alif maqsura, not a hamzatul wasl or something like that. A real alif, long vowel alif, and a hamza. Right? How is this pronounced? Because technically, what's before an alif? What vowel comes before alif? Always kasra, right? Wrong. Dhamma. No, good. People are waking up. Fatha. It has to be fatha. Okay, before alif has to be fatha, long vowel alif. So whenever you want to write this hamza followed by an alif, you get this sound ah. So what you do in writing is you write an alif and you make this little squiggly line like that, and you're good to go. And that has the same. This equals this. That's it. You have a question on this?
Well, it's also pretty related to mad.
To what?
Mad.
Mad. Yeah, mad. This is it. Madda. This is exactly what it is. This is exactly what we call it. So madda or mad, it's a type of mad. So this little squiggly line, boom. That's it. This has the sound of ah. So let's take where are my examples? Here's one simple example. So you have qaf, dhamma, ra with the sukoon. This normally would have been written like this. Okay. So what is this spell? Qur'anu. But you don't write it like this. Instead, how do you write it? You write it like this. Okay, this is all good. This little letter combination, how do I point to it? This letter combination here is going to turn into alif with the squiggly line. And then you write the noon like normal. Nu. And that's how you write the word Qur'anu. That's the Quran book that we read, right? So now you can write the word Quran as well. Good? Yes.
Doesn't madda has a longer pronunciation?
So in tajweed, that's another rule. So in the science of reciting Quran, we'll leave that for the other class. And I encourage you to enroll in that recitation class. Although the class is closed, you can enroll for next quarter, inshallah. So Quran, we're good. Now look at exercise 0.16. Let's read to yourself out loud. Ayatin. Self. Out. That's a hamzatul wasl in the beginning. Out to yourself. Out loud. Al-akhiratu. To yourself. Out loud. Adamu. First human being. First prophet. Read to yourself. Now out loud. Al-ana. Good so far? Good so far. Okay. Now a few more things. Yeah.
How do we know it's Hamzatul Wasl in Al-Akhirah?
You're right. So in Al-Akhirah, how do you know it's Hamzatul Wasl? You don't. So technically there should have been that little sign written there. It's just a big hassle to make it in Microsoft Word. So just write it in there yourself. Okay? Basically the way it works is this. Anything with the letters al in the beginning of a word is automatically, that alif is Hamzatul Wasl. And you're going to learn that in a moment. Okay? So one letter words. Okay? So any word that is written as one letter, which is usually a conjunction or preposition or something like that, it is connected to the following word. So here, this one's easy. Okay? So if you take this word, la, right? And I want to add the letter fa with the fatha on it. I'm going to write the fa like this, dot, put the fa-akala. I just added, fa is technically a word, okay? I added a word fa to the word akala. They're two separate words. I combined them together. Now this one is easy, right? This one you can see because the fa is supposed to connect to the alif naturally. But here's the same example. Akala. Same example, right? But I'm gonna write a wa. And what is special about wa? It's one of the 6 letters that don't do what? They don't connect to the following letters. Right? They don't connect to the following letter. They can connect to the previous letter, but they cannot connect to the following letter. So now I write this wa here. The trick here is when you add this wa, and wa is one of the, I would say wa is like one of the most common letters or words in language, as well as in the Quran. It's probably the most common word, if not like the word, probably one of the most common words in the Quran. So you just learn one of the most common. Anyways, wa akala has to be written without a space in between. So any one-letter word is written without a space. So if I see this wa, and then I see akala, and I say, oh yeah, I added wa, and then see the space there? That space is wrong. You say, well, is that such a big deal? Well, let me tell you why it's a big deal. Number one, if you're typing, let's say you're writing, right? And you're writing, all of a sudden you run out of space, you put a wa here, so I got to go to the next line. Okay, I'm going to start writing akala, right? On the next line, and then I start writing stuff, and I'm writing, and I put another wa here. Oh no, I can't finish my sentence. So I start writing. The wa is by itself at the end of the line. You could do this in a word processor, you could do this in your writing. This is wrong because the waw is a one-letter word. It has to be connected to the following word. So you have to write the wa here closer, right? And if you're typing in a word processor, which hopefully we might get to do in this class, if not in the next class, if you're typing, you do not put a space. But in English, when you write the word and, wa means and, usually. So if you write the word and, do you put a space? Absolutely. But in Arabic, when you put wa, you don't put a space. Why is this important? Because in some word processors, like there are some database searches. Like there's a program called Maktaba Shamila. It has all the books of hadith, the entire Quran, all the books of Islamic law, all the books of grammar, all the books of history in Arabic, right? So if you're doing a search and you say, you know what, I remember there's a hadith, there's a statement of the Prophet, peace be upon him, where he used the word, you know, akala something, and you put it in the search, you're not going to find it. And you're like, someone told me that this hadith is in Sahih al-Bukhari. And I just did a computer search, and I'm telling you, I've seen scholars even do this. They run a computer search. No, hadith doesn't exist. You're quoting some fabricated thing. This is not in Bukhari. This guy is wrong. He lied to me. Actually, you didn't know how to use the search, because the search, you had to be searching for the waw in the beginning. Your search started without the waw, and they're connected without a space in between. The search engine will not find it, depending on what kind of search you're doing. Okay, so this is just an example of how in practical reality this could have consequences. Although, to be honest, it's not the end of the world if you write a space. Okay, it's really not the end of the world. All right, moving on. We're out of space. Here, more space. Alhamdulillah. So that's one-letter words. The name of Allah. Okay, the name of Allah is written a little bit differently. So technically, it should have been written like this. Oh, by the way, I gotta do one little correction, by the way. So last week, I taught you how to write this lam alif. I totally forgot that I taught it wrong. This is the old way I used to write it. So I told you to write it like this, right? Is the sister here who I taught? Oh, Jala, yeah, you asked the question, right? So look, I said you go down like this, right? And then you come back like this, and then you go up. Okay, that's actually incorrect. It still looks okay, but actually what you're supposed to do, calligraphers, what they do, is you start going down like this, stop, you bring your pen up, and then you bring this one down, and you connect it. And you know why that is? Because technically this is a lam and an alif. And when you write a lam, you start from the top. When you write an alif, you start from the top. So what you're doing is you're starting from the top, and then you're starting from the top, and then you make the connection. Okay, and it does look a little bit cooler, I guess, when you do it this way. Anyways, so technically the word Allah, right, would be pronounced like this. That's a shadda with the fatha. Allah. That's how it should have been written normally. But the word Allah is written specially. It has a special way of writing it, and this is the way you write it. You write an alif. You write one lam, ready to connect. You write a second lam, ready to connect. And then you write this ta marbuta looking thing, like that, without the dots. It's a ha, technically. The ha connected at the end. Okay? This is how you write the word Allah. So technically, it was supposed to be written like this, but it's actually written like this. This is just one of those words that's written differently. Okay, in the Arabic language, you just need to know that, you need to memorize it, you need to practice it, and that's it. Okay, and it's adab, it's out of etiquette and respect. After you're writing these things, if you have the word Allah or something like that, it's best to cross it out or erase it or something like that, because otherwise you're going to be throwing your paper into the trash can. And you know the scholars recommend that that can be seen as a form of disrespect. So you can just cross that out. If you're writing a verse of the Quran, I forgot to mention last week, you guys actually wrote a surah out, right? So if you're going to be taking that, just either erase it or cross it out before you throw it into the trash can. It's just a sign of respect. Or you can burn it, or you can put acid on it, make it chemical. You know, this is, we can learn a good example from that, you know, that wacko, crazy Florida pastor who's going to burn Qurans. It would actually be really good because we have a lot of Qurans in different masjids, mushafs, that are like really in bad shape. And somebody needs to burn them. So I wish I could have just contacted him to handle the disposal for us, because he's doing a great job in terms of disposing it the way that Muslims wanted to dispose of it. You know, of course his intentions were different, but you know, he can do some service to the Muslim community. So anyways, too, you can burn it, or you can destroy it, or you can erase it, or you can cross it off, or something like that. Okay. So last thing we're going to cover is the numbers. Okay, the numbers in Arabic are written from left to right, whereas Arabic is written from right to left. So this is written like English, right? So you're actually going to write the numbers the other way. So here are the numbers. Okay, number 1, just go down. Number 2, to be honest, I don't even know if you start from the top or the bottom. So I'm not a calligraphy professional. I start from the bottom. Maybe you're supposed to start from the top. Does anyone know? It's from the top? Proper? Okay, so right to left. So there we go. Arabic teacher is telling us you start from here and then you go down. Okay? The 3 the same way? Start from the top right? Okay. So I'm correcting my writing now. There you go. That's number 3. Number 4, make it like this. Okay. Number 5. Yeah? Good. Number 6. Number 7. Start from right or left? Start from the right? Oh, that's ajib. Okay, I'm going to get used to this. Like that, huh? Okay, right. Yeah, that makes sense, actually. This one too? No, you start from the left, right? So we start from the right, like this? No, I'm not talking about the order. I'm talking about how you start the letter. Do you write it like this, or do you write it like this? Start from the right. Start from the right. Okay. So you start from the right, go down, and then you come up. All right. What about the 8? Same thing. Start from the right. 8 is from the left, and then you go down. And the 7 is from the left or right? 7 is from the right. 8 is from the left. Okay. Do you guys have? Does that make sense? You sure about that? Okay. Okay. As long as it looks good, I'm not even gonna figure out what you did. Okay. One of the modules I'm planning on doing for CIS, like a intensive module, which is going to be a calligraphy class, actually. Yeah. No, because the numbers go from left to right.
one.
Huh?
Since one should be from the one.
Okay, okay. Let's write the number. Write the number 50 for me. Write the number 12 for me. Is the number 12 like this, or is it like this? Exactly.
But you have to start from the right.
So this is the 1 and this is the 2. Oh, you mean you start writing from the right? Okay, yeah, okay. I got that part. Okay. Okay. So I see what you're saying. So you start writing. So you write this one first, and then you write this one.
And the orders you have to like always add no matter what, like numbers or letters.
Yes.
You start from the right.
When you're writing, but the order of the number, the meaning of it goes the other way.
Yeah, always from the right.
Okay.
That's what
I understand what you're saying. Okay, when you're writing, you start going in this direction. Okay, I agree with you. You start going in this direction. Okay. Okay. Let's start again. All right. 1. All right. 2, 3, 4. Yes. 5. We're not gonna learn the words yet. We're not gonna learn the words yet. So yeah, now you're confused. 6. So 7. Start from the. There's two tops. Top right. Okay. Top right. There we go. Okay. And this one starts from the. I'm hearing right. I'm hearing left. Is there any agreement? Right or left? Like this. Okay, you know, different opinions. We're gonna consult a calligrapher when the calligrapher comes. All right, and then 9. Okay, and then the 0 is a dot. Now here's a problem. A lot of people coming from English, they're gonna confuse the number 5 and the number 0. Trust me, you will. So just be cautious. Okay, get used to reading it. Okay, and writing it. So now let's go to the exercises. The exercises. Write the number 5. Okay, so we're gonna write the number 5. Number 5 is just that. We're good to go, right? Write the number. So why would I pick the number 5? 5 days in a week. Yeah, creative. All right, number 12. Let's write the number 12. Got the 2. Hopefully everyone has a pencil. Okay, 12. Why 12? 12 months in a year. Very good. Okay. Now we're going to write the number 29. So we write 9 and 2. What is the significance of 29? Number of days in a month. We're going to write the number 30. Got a dot. All right. And the month can also have 30 days. Okay. Now we're going to write the number 114. All right. So we got a 4. 1 and 1. What's the significance of this number? Number of surahs in the Quran. Okay, 6236. So we got 6, 3. What is that? A 2 and 6. Okay. What is 6236? Number of verses in the Quran. Okay. 570, 0. So we're writing these numbers backwards on the advice of our Arab sisters. That's a 7. And then we got a 5. This is extremely difficult. I write it the other way around. So that's 570. Significance of that? The year in which the Prophet was born.
You can start with the 5 too, like 570.
Oh, I'm allowed to do that now? Alhamdulillah. I'm going crazy here. Okay. All right. Alhamdulillah. So we're going to go back to this. 610. We got a 6. We got a 1. We got a 0. We're speeding this up now. Okay. We got a 6. We got a 2. And we got a 2. 622 is what? What?
Muhammad became prophet.
When the Prophet ﷺ became a prophet.
And 622 is the year that Muhammad started.
No, 610 was the year he became. Prophet became the revelation. 622 was what? The Hijrah, migration to Medina. And we got 1430. 1, 4, 3, and 0. What is that? Which year? 5 years ago in the Hijri calendar, right? Okay, we're good. Now we go to chapter review. We're on reserve battery power, so and we're skipping our break today, if you don't mind. So we're going to move a little bit faster. So chapter review, your goal is to write all these letters combined together. So this is discussion section. It's already been done, or it's going to be done next week. So we're going to skip this. You know how to write them all together in one thing. Starting with chapter 1 now. So chapter 1, let's look at chapter 1. So we have this text. We're going to read the text out loud together along with the translation. So the word for book is kitab. What is ma? It's a question, like what? What is this? Ma hadha. Now look at this footnote on the bottom here. The word here, the word hadha is actually pronounced, it's written like this. Okay? And this is not a fatha on here, it's actually this stroke going up and down. This stroke is actually means that this is a long vowel fatha. So technically, this symbol is equal to this. Okay? But this is just the way that the word is written. It's written without this alif in here. You just need to memorize. This word, which means this, hadha, is written without this long alif here. It's just the way it is. Okay? The next one. How do you say this is a book? Hadha kitabun. And then what is that? Ma dhalika. Dhalika. Same thing with the word dhalika here that you see. It's written like this. Zal, lam, kaf. Alright? But this is actually this little sign. I couldn't get this on Microsoft Word, so that's why I didn't write it in. You could write it in yourself. Okay? So this is actually, the word zalika was supposed to be written like this. Right? It was supposed to be written like this. Li-ka. But instead, it was supposed to be like this, but instead it's not this, it's actually this. We got it? Okay, so that's just the writing. So now, these are the words and the grammar that we're going to be learning in lesson number 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to move before we... Oh, actually, sorry, there's more. So that is a house. Number 6, how do you say that? Zalika baytun. Number 7, who is this? Man hadha. Right? That is a man. Number 8, Zalika rajulun. Okay, and you're seeing some punctuation here. You see a period at the end of the sentence, and you see a backwards question mark, which is just a way of writing a question. These are all modern connotations. They didn't exist in the past. They're being used now. If you use them, great. If you don't use them, it's not a big deal. You don't need a question mark in Arabic to figure out that something is a question, because the word itself indicates that it's a question. Okay, so you don't really need that. So now these are the sentences. We're going to study them in detail. But before we study them in detail, let's look at some of the vocabulary. So the nouns that we're going to be looking at, let's read them from right to left. Okay, so starting top right, the first word is house. The word for house is bayt. Say it out loud. Bayt. Good. The word for book is kitab. The word for mosque is masjid. Now this is where we are. The word for door is bab. Now you see that house, book, and mosque, they're not capitalized. But see the D in door? It has a capital D. Did anybody notice that?
Yes.
You know why?
Because they go together.
Good guess actually. But no, that's not it. Anyone else? You're right, that's true. There's no capitals in Arabic. But why does mosque not capitalize and the door, the D in door, is capitalized? Anyone know? Yeah. No, it's called a typo. Okay, that's what it's called a typo. So I want to get you in a critical thinking mode. So you be confident in your statements. Microsoft Word just automatically puts the capital in there, and it's such a hassle to keep changing it all the time. Anyway, so pen, which is capitalized again, right, is qalam. Qalam. Okay, going back to nouns again. Man, rajul, boy or child, walad. Now here's the thing. You see the semicolon? The semicolon means that they could have two different meanings. If I put a comma, it means that I'm using more than one meaning which has a similar meaning, right? But if I put a semicolon, it means two different meanings. If you say somebody's a boy and you say somebody is a child, actually, you know, you can almost say the same thing. A better